Hello, good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to say that the day is here, team. We have been organizing this event for a while now. It is a dream to be able to bring the University of Columbia to this discussion about climate change. And when we figured out that there was this bidding round open to postulate a topic, we did not think twice. We submitted our proposal and we were selected to organize this workshop here. The idea is to have a very trusting environment where we can ask the questions we want, where we can discuss freely. So we have here people who are our important stakeholders. Mayor Axel Grael from Niterói. We have community leaders in our concession area who are impacted by extreme events. And the idea is to have a partnership here. It's to build these discussions together. I would like to thank the University of Columbia. I would like to also thank Ricardo and our communication team who worked tirelessly since the beginning, and the top management that is with us in this topic, discussing with us, supporting us, and bringing here the topic of resilience of the grid and power generation for this discussion. We have experienced some moments of energy transition here at Enel. We have worked with this topic for a long time, for over 10 years. This is the center of our strategy. It's the center of energy transition. For us, this energy transition has to be fair. When I say that we discuss with the stakeholders, this is exactly what I mean. We have the stakeholders and specific actions for all of the audiences that are interesting to our company here in Rio, specifically on the context of this event, but also in other states where we work. So we know that there will be a growth for energy demand. These numbers will more than double until 2040 and 2050, so we have been working on this a lot. Urbanization here in Brazil is already very strong, and it'll reach 90% in 2050, contributing to an increase in demand, which is even greater. We're still going to have a neo-industrialization here in Brazil where energy will be very important. We want to experience this moment here to leave the status of developing country to a status of developed country, and energy has a key role in this advance. We have worked with decarbonization, as Guilherme said. 100% of the renewable energies, the energy generated in Brazil is already renewable. So being 100% renewable was a challenge for us. And for over 10 years, we designed this plan looking at the topic of energy transition and doing this big investment in renewable energy. The topic of electrification is also one of our topics of interest. We really believe in electrification as long as the generated energy is renewable. So if we work with electrification, we have to work on where the energy is generated. That is why we work first with decarbonization to now include electrification in our agenda. Talk about electrification and how it may benefit our clients and the cities where we work. We have a few figures that say that in 2030, 61% of the share of electrical vehicles in the world will be electrical or hybrid. So we have to work in order to have clean sources for electrification. And on the topic of digitalization, José Luis is going to discuss this in his presentation, but why digitalization? Are we talking only about systems? No, we are talking about a digital grid. When we talk about digitalization, this is an action that is part of our action plan for climate change because this is the first point. We work for grid digitalization for us to have a mitigation work for climate change so that we can contribute with many other actions to the fight against global warming. We'll also have actions of adaptation later on because, as Walter said, this is no longer a discussion. The climate change is there. We don't know which is going to be the impact, but we know we are already suffering with those extreme events that have affected our whole country and the world. So the idea here is to bring innovation, integrate the renewable resources to energy efficiency, bringing resilience to the grid and efficiency to the grid, and making our operations more efficient. And how do we do this in the Brazilian context, bringing the social aspect to it? We work in a completely diverse and complex context. We are in the main city of Brazil, which is Sao Paulo, with a huge level of demand and requirement, but we are also located in Tabocas do Brejo Velho in the countryside of Bahia, a city with 3,000 people that is in the surroundings of our renewable plants. How can we bring this just transition everywhere that we work and for the country as a whole? In the beginning, we were discussing the role of the industry of oil and gas, and Walter mentioned that 75% of the impact in climate change comes from fossil fuels. Here in Brazil, this percentage is extremely different. The oil and gas industry will continue having an important role. We're not saying that to be able to face climate change, we have to get to zero in oil and gas production, but we have to decrease it. And how are we going to do with the jobs in the industry? In the state of Rio, it is a huge source of employment. So, what we have worked on is to look at the city of São Paulo and to look at the town of Trabocas de Brejo Velho with the same importance, the same attention, understanding that sustainable development has to be for all. We have a very complex environmental context as well. The extreme events have happened more and more regularly, and they impact us very much. We had an extreme event in November in Sao Paulo, and we had an extreme event in Rio as well. The winds in Sao Paulo reached 105 kilometers per hour. In Rio, we had 167 kilometers per hour winds. This is considered a hurricane. And the scale, this is already a hurricane. So, how can we try to understand the role of an industry in the electrical sector within this complex and challenging context where clients, of course, want power. They understand that there was an adverse extreme event, but they need power. When you have a power outage for 1 to 2 hours, we understand it. But if we have power outages for over 24 hours, this impacts the lives of people in the industries. How can we bring this challenging context to the reality of our electrical sector? This is our sustainable development strategy, and I bring it in all my presentations because I believe that it is actually what we are doing here today. It is collaborative. We want to be sustainable and resilient companies, but we cannot do that if our stakeholders are not with us. So, in order to have quick maintenance in an adverse event, we have to have the suppliers with us. We need our partners to be with us as well. We need our employees to be with us. We need the clients to understand it. we need the institution to understand the difficulties that we have and that we work in partnership with them. This is our strategy. We have some work pillars, which are climate change, natural capital, human rights, employees, suppliers, and communities that we call our people, growth accelerators, and corporate governance. So we understand that this is a work that has to be done by multiple hands. We have to have this plan. We have this plan designed, and we count on all of our partners in this work of building resilience to our grids.
This is a little bit of our approach, how we're doing that internally. We have our sustainability plan, and it's not only ESG indicators. They're also included, but within our plan, we have quality indicators, we have complaints indicators, indicators that are not directly connected to the ESG acronym, but they are part of what we call EESG, because a company is not able to have ESG indicators if the financial part is not solved. So I want to invest, I want to contribute for this sustainable development, but I need to have returns because we are a for-profit company, and if we want to do everything that we need, we must have revenues in our business. So all the indicators are in the sustainability plan with the same importance of the ESG indicators, because this is the sustainability that we are looking for internally. We have our yearly report, which is in different universities, is a topic of study because in fact is a very complete report. We not only bring the positive projects, but also how we impact society we are in and how we are addressing the systems. So if you don't know this report, we have our 2022 report on our website, and we are going to launch the 2023 soon. We have the human rights topic that is unnegotiable for us. All the topics we have, all the areas we work, we have this due diligence happening every 2 years and an action plan which is a consequence of this due diligence. We have all the departments included. We think about all types of impact. So this topic of extreme events with power outages, it's inserted in our human rights plan. It's a very robust plan we've been working with for some years to advance with the goals. And also sustainable finance, Walter mentioned about that, sustainable finance, insurance. We're talking about a topic of climate change that all of the countries contribute for, but the developed countries contributed more. So what should we do now with developing countries to develop and increase their industries if they are not able to fund this clean energy that will help us fight climate change? This is something we have to discuss. This is the great debate in the COPs. This is a very important topic, sustainable finance, because someone must fund the developing countries so that the support is given to us. A little bit of our net zero goal. We brought net zero closer to our operation for 2040. This is our ambition. We have different actions that we've been developing in our plan to get to this net zero status. But when we observe our inventory today, more than 90% of our emissions are scope 3. What does it mean? That our operation is very clean. When we observe internally, we've done our homework, but we need our stakeholders and partners to embark in this journey. And for that, we've been working with our suppliers, with our clients. When we talk about energy loss, this is here as well. this is inefficiency in energy consumption. So how can we prevent these losses that we have in Rio, for instance, that are contributing a lot with this topic of climate change when we talk about consumption inefficiency? So these are some of our targets and actions. Guilherme has mentioned some of them. 100% renewable generation until 2040, uh, leaving the gas retail until 2040, 100% of sales with renewables, and also decarbonizing the value chain until 2040 to collaborate with this just transition. If I had to bring only one slide, that would be this one, because it's speaking about what Walter mentioned, about Guilherme mentioned, about what Camila mentioned. Everything that we do today for our climate change process. When we talk about projects and energy efficiency, for instance, why do we develop these projects within the communities? Because we are working with different actions of mitigation. This helps us to consume in a more efficient way. Not only clients that are able to buy energy efficient fridges, but also clients who are not able to buy them. So we're talking about actions to fight energy poverty. And this is a reality in Brazil and Latin America as a whole. And we work a lot with several countries of Enel with actions fighting energy poverty. And before that, we have this risk mapping. What is risk to us when we talk about climate change? The obvious risk is this uh, extreme climate event. We experience that. As Sebastian has mentioned, we are facing that almost every year. We only have this question of where it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. So we have all the risks mapped. We have this department doing that in our company, and we also have ESG mapping that are part of our climate change plan. And from there, we are able to design different actions. These actions are divided in two great groups: mitigation actions and adaptation actions. The mitigation actions are those we take so that the temperature may be reduced. So every topic of reinforcing the grid, automating the grid, is a mitigation action, because when we have an automated grid, we prevent displacement, we are able to have activities performed remotely, we are able to make energy provision return faster. This is one of the actions, but we also have other innovations, such as the use of drones. Instead of having teams who need to travel for long distances, we have drones. We are starting with this work, but it's an important work. All the topic of fighting losses. So we are talking about innovative actions and also fighting energy stealth, because we have many commercial clients, even industrial clients, who are stealing energy, and who is paying for this energy is all of us. So everyone must be an ambassador in fighting the energy losses, because this is creating impact in the quality of the grid. And when the energy is stolen, they don't have to be concerned about being efficient with energy consumption, and we have this overload in the grid. So this is an intensive work we have. And the smart uh, measurement, this is an application we started in Brazil, and the energy efficiency program. So these are the mitigation actions. After the actions have happened, we are experiencing the extreme events concerning climate change, we must adapt. So of course we have this topic of meteorological monitoring. Many people ask me, Did you know you were going to have an event in São Paulo? Because we had forecasts that said that we would have 55 kilometers per hour winds. But in reality, it was 105 kilometers. So the impact was exponential. So we have been working to prevent this kind of losses by having accessible information. I receive alerts from the civil defense about possible floods. I live in Rio, so I receive them almost every week. So imagine if every week we had to deploy all the teams of the contingency plan to work and we didn't need that. At the end, that would be being inefficient. We must know information in a more efficient way so that the company is able to work in a more efficient way. So of course we work with the information we have from competent bodies that are providing information. And the information we have is the information we work with. The topic of managing critical events. Of course, after the November events in São Paulo and Rio, we enhanced our contingency plan with several different actions in terms of operation, but also concerning other departments in the company. So we have been working day and night so that contingency plan can be improved so that we can prevent impacts. And when they happen, we should respond quickly. We have the summer plan. It's an yearly plan that because we know that every summer we have intense rainfall and also the the plan for pruning trees. So in the event we had in São Paulo, I've been bringing data about it because it was an extreme event. We needed to rebuild 203 kilometers of grid. 203 kilometers is more than the distance between Rio de Janeiro and the city of Paraty, and it was built in record time. Speaking of record time, when many clients are experiencing this power outage, might seem a mistake because people are facing this power outage, but we had 205 kilometers of grid being rebuilt. We have the equipment, we have the teams, and in fact, it was something we had never faced in the company. More than 2,000 trees fell. So this gives you an idea of the impact in our operations. And why do we do that? Because we want to have expected results. We work for the client. The client is the center of our operation, so we must provide better services. We must plan in a more positive way, being prepared for the different events so that when they happen, we are able to reestablish power as soon as possible, communicating everyone. So we also want to have a better perception from the client concerning the execution of the work in every aspects of the company so that we can provide information real time so that the clients can understand what's happening. The, and also working for this low carbon economy, contributing for the sustainable development of our society. And how do we spin this wheel, bringing this concept that is still current with learning and feedback? So what do we do with this data? The events that happened in Rio and São Paulo brought a lot of learned lessons to us. So we are always feedbacking, understanding what we are going to do to improve the execution, to update the different indexes, establishing partnerships as well. This is a very important moment for us. This one is, for instance, we are discussing a topic that belongs to everyone, and we must understand how to advance. So we have partnerships established that are very important to us with electric buses in São Paulo, for instance. We believe in this topic of urban mobility, bringing electrical vehicles. We've been discussing that a lot. We've been to the city of Belém. We've talked about that for COP, for the next COP in Brazil. And that's it. We should consider all the difficulties we have because all of the cities are facing the same problems. So we must understand what worked, what is working, what went wrong, so that we are able to correct the route. We also had two studies with IPT and ICLEI for the concerning the pathways of energy transition that engaged more than 800 stakeholders. It was a very rich study in partnership with the Lloyd Consultancy. So we are bringing new pathways for this transition, not only for the energy sector, but to all of the sectors. As a society, we are able to get to net zero in 2050, which is one of our national contribution goals. And we must observe the sectors that are also contributing for climate change. We had this study as a gift so that public policies can be built based on this study. You may access the study from our website. And also the circular cities study. We understand that this is the future. The cities must be resilient, sustainable, circular. We are talking about waste, energy, transportation, and we must bring this topic to discussion. When we are talking about energy transition towards this low carbon economy, we observe that only 3% of our waste is recycled in Brazil. We must advance, and we haven't seen this topic advancing. So that's it. I think that what I brought was a complement to what Walter brought to us. We are living this climate change, this climate emergency that is affecting all of us. We must adapt and we must bring resilience. You're going to see in the next presentations with José Luis and also with the mayor panels, we must see how the cities must prepare, how the companies are preparing, and I'm going to bring the two studies to you. These studies that we as a company brought as a contribution for the topic. That's it.